Okay, let's get started, guys. Praveen, are you all set? Preeti ma'am, are you all set? Am I loud and clear?
Good morning. Yes, ready.
Great.
Morning, Praveen.
Praveen, small reminder, just unmute before you speak so that a lot of times we get carried away. Just a small reminder, please.
You are muted right now, Praveen. Okay.
Yeah, now I'm on.
Good. Let's get started.
Can you hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Done. Okay.
Thank you. So, good morning, guys. Thank you for joining for Bangalore School of Design Knowledge Share Web Series 1.0. This series is dedicated for all the students of design to engage with industry leaders and pioneers to understand their journey in design, and also giving an opportunity for them to share enough information for you guys to understand about a specific topic. Today's topic is going to be on landscape. And before we jump into the webinar, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Bangalore School of Design. I'm Praveen Kumar, co-founder for Bangalore School of Design. Bangalore School of Design is a dedicated institution for design education. Currently, we have programs across interior design, interior architecture, graphic design, brand strategy, UI UX, journalism, political design, and other verticals. All our programs are affiliated to Bangalore North University and in academic partnership with Collège Paris, École Conté. So now, before we jump in, I would like to take a minute of yours and showcase a small video of our campus and our campus live. Just give me a second. Let me just throw that on your screens. So that was our campus life at Bangalore School of Design. We are really looking forward to get back to the normalcies, but keeping the safety and the current scenario in mind, we are moving everything online for a brief couple of months down the line. So now I would like to introduce our academic director, Preeti Dineshwar, who will also be today's moderator. And I would request Preeti Dineshwar to please take it forward and introduce the panelists, and let's get started with today's webinar series. Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Good morning, all of you. Thank you all for being here today. In our attempt to keep the student community active and engaged during these times, we have embarked on this knowledge share webinar series, and we would like to keep it as varied and interesting as possible. Of course, we are more than happy to welcome, apart from the students, other professionals, designers, and all those who might be interested as well. Today's topic is comprehensive landscape development, and our guest presenting today is architect Praveen. Welcome, Praveen.
Hi.
Let me give you a brief introduction about architect Praveen before we start. Praveen is a landscape architect with 20 plus years of experience in the field. He did his BArch from VNIT Nagpur and his master's in landscape architecture from SPA Delhi. He likes to think of a project inside out, in his words, and the other way around too. He works on boutique projects like resorts and large bungalows. He loves experimenting with materials and is all the time thinking how to put them together. You will learn a lot more about his work shortly. When he is not creating beautiful landscapes, he is busy exploring the natural landscapes of our country. He is an avid trekker and biker, having done Ladakh, Bhutan, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and our own southern states. He loves to travel and has been to 15 countries apart from our own. Welcome, Praveen. The stage is yours.
Thank you. I'll start with the presentation straight away.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep. Yeah, hi everybody. I'll just go through my projects and then we can have a little chat session on what and why of landscape. So here we are in the landscape context. We have these basic principles, like it's very similar to any design where you have these basic principles of unity, balance, things like that. So I'll just show you a couple of slides on that just to give an understanding of how it's like how you do a design. This is a landscape is also very similar. We have the same theories which we put into place, and here what you see is a courtyard of a hospital where we have given these walkways and seaters. So all these rooms overlook into this space. Apart from these rooms where we have a little step out where you come into this deck and you can experience the space. So this is something like, so some of them are seating and some of them, so these are seaters and these are pathways. And then you have the rest of the composition. So this is how, it's basically like you look at the whole space and decide, okay, let me plan it in such a way that, from each view or each angle, what do you see and how do you make it look nice? So this is how we have worked on it. And here we see different materials. This is one material, this is another material, this is grass. So we can have many options there. This is one of our projects which I'll discuss a little later. Here what we have is, like here we're talking about balance when you're doing a design. How you do an axis, keep all your vistas, planar vistas. You see your building structure and see what are the views from inside, what are the views from outside, and then you create your whole system based on that. So this is how we have done one. We did this axis line when we come in, and then we did a little balance here. You have this circle, then you have this, and they both blend into each other in some aspects, and then you have few of these elements thrown in to give that same semblance of the overall, to compose the whole thing. So these are all the basic design fundas, which I'm just going through once, then we'll get into the details. So this one is all about proportion, like in terms of the scale, what are the heights of these little curves, what are the height of these walls. The idea is to keep everything nice and cozy, depending on the scale again. Say, like even here, for example, for this axis, we have these trees which are low, and being the pathway is narrow. So you have the trees accordingly planted, all in a low scale. Whereas here you see these are much bigger. This is actually on the first floor. So this is actually a created garden on a sit out. Not a sit out, sorry, it's a portico. It's on top of a portico, which is the same level as the living room of the house. And these are some more experiments which we have done using stone as seaters and all that. So the whole idea is to get these proportions right, in terms of, like for example, here we have given this height, which is around 18 inches, whereas this is much lower. So kids can sit, even elders can sit, that was the idea of doing this in different levels. This is another image of the same thing. So this is just to show how we play with color. See, you have this dark background here. So then we start playing with lighter colors, then some bright colors. So the idea is to play with colors and textures to create a whole composition, apart from your hardscape which you have worked on. So I'll go to one of these projects, which this is a huge site. It's around 6 acres of a site with one house in the middle. Then they have this pool. The idea was that you enter here, you walk into your living room, and when you sit here, you can look across through the pool into this space, which is actually a gazebo, and then onto a green wall here. So apart from all the green which you see some more green here, which is a backdrop for this structure here. So here, what is interesting about this place is 6 acres of land with a massive house. There are apartments all around, you know. And when you blast your music, when you have a party, everybody complains. So what we did was we made a structure here, which is a glass box. So no sound goes out through that, you know. So it's completely soundproof. And then you can step out from here into a little court, sunken court. So this is how we worked this whole plan out. I'll show you how it looks. So when we first got into this place, this was what was there. We had this little gazebo. So this view is from the living room. When you come into the living room and look out over the pool, you see this gazebo. Then we changed it to this. We did something more modern here. The pool remains the same. And then we put this structure here. So this is like a gazebo, which extends into this, what we call it, party hall. Let's call it for a minute. And then this wall here, we have, I'll show you some more pictures. We have a greenhouse. Similarly, on the house, we had these, so it was quite blank, the facade. Then we added these structures. These are all, let's call it landscape elements to make the whole space nice. So the idea was that from inside, when you step out, you have some kind of a shade, some open, put some plants. Then the whole space overlooks the pool. Yeah, so this is how it is. We walk in here, step out, and then we see the whole pool, the gazebo here. So now if you see here, this is the green wall which we have done. And this is the party hall with that gazebo-ish roof. This is after it's all done up. Similarly here, you can see the structure. So the idea was that this whole thing blends in together into a nice space. And when you come out from this party hall, these are the steps to come to a sunken court. So the idea was to, the landscape is higher and you are at a little sunken level. The idea was to have, when you sit, you actually feel like you're sitting in the middle of a green. See, this is just behind this is the sunken court. Yeah, this is how it is. So the idea is when you sit, you have all these plants literally falling over, so it gives you a nice feel, when you're sitting there. This is how it is. And then being Bangalore, we put this little fireplace outside. So the idea was, when December and all the parties are happening, this is a nice space to hang out. This was one of the scenes where we had put a lot of furniture. So this is a party hall which is completely in glass. So when you're inside also, you see the whole landscape, but this is all double glazing, where the sound doesn't go out at all. Yeah, this is the element. This is how it is. So this is the double glazing, and we did some elements like this, just to blend it into the landscape, so it doesn't stand out too much. And the view, this view when you, this view when you look out here through the from here into this gazebo, and this wall is here. This is the wall here. It is actually a green wall, and then we did a little food counter, bar, whatever, stuff like that. This is one more shot of that same gazebo, which extends into the party hall. This is a space, yes. And this is a green wall, which you see. So when you open the main door right there, you see the pool, and then you see this area, and then you see the green behind. So the whole thing ties up as one axis, which is this, through till here. I'll take it to the next one. This is also an interesting project in Coorg, where this is the main road. And when you drive in towards the house is 15 feet below the road, which means this whole thing is a hill. This whole thing is a hill, and the house is much lower. I'll show you pictures now. See, this is the road here, and this is the house which we're working on with the entire landscape. So if you notice here, the road is at this level and the house is here, which means imagine a scenario like this in Bangalore where when it rains, we'll have all the water collected here. This being Coog, I mean, we're managing the water in such a way that whatever flows here, we collect the water here, take it out, and then into the lower level there. Here, the hillside goes down further. So we did a little modern thing here. I'll show you some more slides of how it looks, because the house is very modern. Even the landscape, even the lines in the landscape, yeah, this is how you'll see it now. So we have this, so we drive in from the road here, drive in, turn around and go back. This is a road which is at 15 or 18 feet higher than this level. So we have sloped this entire land down, cut it into a retaining wall. So this becomes a large area for people to hang around. So from inside the house, you have steps to come out, large space to hang around. And this is more of a green in terms of dense vegetation is what we're looking at. Yeah, I was talking about this retaining wall. Sorry, this one. So a lot of engineering goes in terms of the volume of water coming in here and stagnating below and then putting pressure on this wall. The wall could fall. So there's some amount of engineering involved here where we have this large foundation retaining wall, which is tapered because we wanted to put in a seater here. And then we created little slits here. Apart from that, we use something called a drain cell, which takes the pressure of the soil off the retaining wall. The idea is the water pressure continuously on this is not a good idea. So we let the water drain out through this gap, collect into a pipe and out again. These are the overall, how we did the levels. This is a driveway level. We have the first level, then the second level, then the third level. That's how we reach the 18 feet, creating these large open spaces in front of the house. Yeah, this is how it is, we come down and then flat and then again the larger part. This is how we're detailing this space out. So these are all work in progress. So these are kind of drawings we do to sell this concept to the client first. So this curved retaining wall is in RCC. So here you can see the height, it's quite steep. This itself is 5 feet. So you can imagine how much this is. So the idea is, at some point we, at some point we do, the seaters, this is how we had planned it. That's why you're given that incline in this wall to have the seater. So these are some images of the driveway and things like that. So here the idea is when we work on the landscape, we start whatever is outside the house is a part of landscape. So we talk about what are you going to see from, what are you going to look outside, what is the kind of views we are going to create. Apart from that, when we drive in, what is the experience which you want to create? Start from there. And then we come back to the material. What kind of material? What is this material? The whole thing. And then again, we try to tie it up with the building material. If you have some cladding on the walls, try to tie that up with this material. So kind of blends in. Otherwise, you have this completely contrasting element, which is also nice depending on the scenario. So this is how we've done the entrance with this. What is interesting is from this point to this point is almost 18 feet again. So we said, let's do this whole thing in wooden strips like this, which have got little levels in them where we can put in the lights, and the top is glass. So we get some filtered light during the daytime. At night, you have these little lights which glow down onto the floor, giving it the interesting walk in with the steps, little, detail in that. This one is interesting because we had done this landscape 10 years back. Our landscape line stopped here. Then they said they wanted a pool. So we put this entire pool. This is on the first floor, incidentally. So this whole, you can see here, this whole pool is actually literally cantilevered out of the building. You see here? This entire structure is literally hanging out of the building on stilts to create this. Now we're going to create another deck here. And then these trees, what we had planted earlier, we are using it, like you can see it here. We can put a large gazebo here. So this becomes like a pool bar come seating area. Then you have these trees going through the roof. So we work the roof around the trees here. So there are some visuals of how we had worked out this space. So there are some wooden decks where you can put in the seaters, and then the pool is here. And there is a sunken bar in this corner, which you can see here. And this is like an overflow pool. So it's, what do you call it, an infinite edge pool. That's what we call it. So this is how it's detailed out. You have the pool deck level here, then the water level at the same level, and then here there's a drain which goes down, which you don't get to see when you're standing here. That's how these infinite edge pools are designed. You can see them here. So when you stand here, you see this edge, and then you see the landscape beyond. But this is the main drain which uses the water for filtration. The water goes in, filters, and comes back in here. Yeah, the same shots, from another angle. So this is the pool bar with some waterfall, some wooden underdeck ceiling. This is how the structure was done last month. This is also another large area. Like when you enter from the main door, you come in here, and this is like a massive space, which is like the den, which again overlooks the pool and things like that. So now that we have these huge spaces, then we decided, let's do something interesting on top. So here we have these levels, they're all done in wood. So idea is that you sit here, and then from there you can still overlook onto the pool here. Apart from that, the view is fabulous. So we created the best in terms of creating these seaters here. And this is a master bedroom here. So you step out here, and then you have these seaters at different levels, plants. And then this whole thing is a glass railing. The idea was you get to see the max amount of visibility in the estate. This is the other angle. Yeah, so this, okay, I'll just go back to the main plan to orient ourselves. Yeah, we drive in here, we have this driveway, a cul-de-sac going back out. This is the main parking. So our landscape design starts from the gate, and then you plan out, if you have a visitor, what are you going to do? They get off here, go and park, then come in to the house, enter the house, then the bedrooms are here, etc., etc. And then, so the hangout spaces, this is the den we were talking about. From here, sorry, this is the living room, and this is a den, which is a bar come, seaters and all, overlooking into the estate here. Then from here, we have steps going down into this little gazebo, a yoga deck, we call it, and a movie theater is what we're thinking of, an outdoor movie theater. There's something which we thought would be interesting in that space. I'll show you how it works. Yeah, so from the house, you come out here. This is the yoga deck. Then you come down here, and this is again a sunken seater, very similar to the first project which I had shown you. The idea, yeah, so you can see it here. You come out from the house, and then you have this yoga deck, sunken seater. So idea was to do a movie thing that it will be fabulous when you're out in the open at night, dark skies, and then you have this screen, and you could watch something nice. So this is the screen how we have proposed it. Here, the projector is here, which throws in the image here, and then the speakers are behind. That's how we had looked at it. And then this becomes a seating place. You can add in some more chairs, and this is a little fireplace here. So that's how we did this. And then the roof has got a little interesting wooden profile shape and all that. Incidentally, this roof, what we're thinking of doing is we'll not use RCC, because we wanted that flat roof, because the whole house has got too many of these slopes. So we thought, let's do a flat roof. So when you do a flat roof, the material, again, simplest is to do RCC. We decided, let's do it in granite. So we'll take these huge chunky slabs and then fix it on the top, create this whole thing into a flat roof in granite. Zero maintenance, and it looks more natural. This is a small house in Bangalore. So just to show you the detail of how, like since the smaller the site, then it gets more challenging because we try to make it look more interesting, and then you have to see each experience. So the moment you open the gate, this should look good. So this is what we did. Try to do different material, and so we get in here, and then create this. Instead of doing a normal pathway which we run all around, we did this where you come till here, step up, and go through the lawn into this. Then here we created a pathway which holds the plants on one side and the plant and the lawn on the other side. Here also we had this level was much higher, so we created this little space with seaters. So when you step out again here, this is like a nice cozy space with where the trees are like tall, no? So it's more overwhelming space. So this feels like a nice sunken low seating area. This is an interesting project again, where this is a commercial building. So this is the main road here. This is the structure, and this was the frontage of the building, which is what we had. So we worked on this area and this area. So what was interesting about this place is we drive in here, and then this is basically a drive out, an exit. And this had to look good. So we had given them two proposals. So one was, so this is the drive-in and this is the exit. And then we did this water body, which is the same level as the grass, and then a little bit of element, very abstract. And we liked this design, and we said, let's do it. And then the client said no. They wanted one more option. Then we came up with this, wherein we drive in and we drive out. And then, so this is very different from a normal, like this is very linear, angular, and this is interesting, yes, no doubt. But this is something offbeat, the whole space. Like you have this huge curved retaining wall, which is almost 8-10 feet high from the ground, and then the stepped seaters here. So the idea is when you walk in, you see this water, you see this mound. Beyond that, this is a flagpole area, and this whole thing leads to we had initially thought of putting something like a monumental scale kind of a large thing here, some abstract art. Then they said, let's put a tree, like a Bodhi tree. We ended up doing completely different. Like this is how we had looked at it. No, we have this whole space going up, and then you have like a nice focal interest here, then the slope down on either side, so that when you stand here, the landscape reads like that, all in one line, on a tapered line rather. So you have a tapered land here, whereas the view is tapered here. You can see from here. But then finally, what we ended up doing is something else. I'll show you that. So this is how we did the construction drawings for that whole space, where we give all these offsets and curve with the drawing for the construction to happen in terms of, because these are all RCC walls, they have to be detailed out in terms of the weight of the soil here. So this is how it looks. So finally, we ended up putting a nice sculpture here in that space instead of a tree. We decided let's put all the trees on the sides and make this into an interesting space, and then let's put a nice big. This is almost 20 feet high, 20 by 20. It's a cube. Yeah, you can see from here. You can see from here. And this is that flag post area, which is this one. So these guys, they have a lot of international clients, so they wanted to put all these flags whenever there's a seminar, whatever they have. No? So when these visitors come in, they put their flags here. So this is what we had planned here, around 5 flags. This is a road with that fence. So fence also, we tried something different. We use something called an expanded metal mesh for the walls. Instead of having solid walls, we did this porous wall, so we can look in to the landscape rather than block it out completely. Yeah, so this is how it looks when you drive in through the main gate. You have this little water body, then you have these, and then from here you can see this, which is a focal point or interest. And this is this area where we have the flagpole. So the idea was that people drive in here, finish the thing, and then get into the building. So these are some details of how we did the structure. So in landscape, we get into a lot of drawings. So these are these water bodies. And then we need to work out the details of the volume of water, and then how do we filter it, put it back. You know, all the engineering has to be done. Then the requirement of water for the landscape. So this is the profile of the water body. And these are those oval-shaped planters which are here. These. There's one here. There are 3 totally. So these are also circular retaining walls. And then these again tapered up. We have a lot of trees here, mostly these plumerias. And there are some of these details of how we did the thing. This is an interesting project again, which is in Hampi, which we did the architecture and the landscape together. Idea was to do the inside out and outside in kind of concept, where you enter and this is the main lobby. So the moment you walk in, you see this little water body, you know, open to sky, and courtyard here, and then you step out into the main plaza where we have the pool and all that. I'll show you those pictures. So here also we did a lot of engineering, like instead of using RCC pillars, we put these stone pillars. So idea was to design the whole structure, plonk in the stone pillars day 1, cast the slab, and then remove the shuttering. So you have this in natural stone. So this entire structure, what you see, this colonnade is completely in stone. This typical Hampi style, you know, like we try to do that Hampi architecture, but in a little modern context. So you have the same these little curves and all that, but these are a little modernized, and you don't have those pakka, that round and that profile, what we normally see there. You see these brackets basically. Put a modern hint of modernism to that old, to the classical style. And then from the main building, when you step out, this is what you see. This is a massive pool, which we did even the shape, we did that typical, like a stepped well kind of concept. We have these steps coming down, which you can see much better here. And then there's a little stone gazebo here, which is this one from the other side. So this is like more like a, when you have these pool parties, you know, the food is served here, like a buffet and all that. Then, okay, yeah. So this is another interesting thing is so after doing the gazebo, lighting is another very important aspect in landscape architecture. Like you can see the difference here. No? At night, we have these little lights which are lighting up the pillars, and the idea is to keep the lighting very soft so that it doesn't hurt the eyes, but yet you highlight your elements, what you need to highlight. This is another project where we put this little gazebo where, like normally when you think of gazebo, you say, okay, let's do the floor in wood, the columns in wood. Then the roof is normally in wood or in glass or in granite or whatever. Here we use tensile membrane. And then there's a little slit here so that there's ventilation happening. So this looks a little different because this whole thing is a dark corner, and then putting granite or anything would have made this whole space look very dark and intense. So a little hint of brightness. Yep, I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you.
Those were some really mesmerizing slides and beautiful vistas of landscapes that you have created. So beautiful. And I'm so glad that the students got to see what are the endless possibilities with landscape. And at the same time, also know that there is a lot of engineering involved. There's a lot of technicality involved. There is a lot of, precise drawings that one needs to be able to furnish for you to kind of execute this kind of beautiful
True,
work.
very true. Yeah.
I'm so glad that they got some little insight. I mean, I was actually flooding with a lot of questions in between, but
Right.
I'd rather leave that to the participants. We have a few questions for you, though, in general about
Sure.
landscaping. And
Yeah.
then I request all the participants to send in their questions as messages on the chat window, and we'll try and take them one by one. In the meantime, I'd like to ask Praveen a few other questions that I have here.
Sure.
We all know that indoor and outdoor landscapes are designed differently. As an
Yeah.
expert, what would you say are the key points that one needs to keep in mind while designing indoor landscapes in particular? Since
Yeah.
most of what we saw right now was outdoor,
Yeah.
is there something else that one needs to sort of keep in mind while designing indoor landscapes?
Yeah. So in indoor, the most important thing we need to look at is light, the quantum of light coming into that space. And we design accordingly, because the kind of plant species which we use are all dependent on the kind of lighting which you have. Example,
Right.
example is, okay, incidentally, we did one project where it was a courtyard. I mean, it was the main entrance lobby of a hospital in Chennai, Apollo, Proton, they call it. So they had these huge 70 or 60 feet length by 10 feet of a landscape strip. I don't have any slides of that, but we did the whole thing in artificial plants, to make it look as possible. That was a lot of cheating involved there, but okay. But but otherwise, what we need is good light, or we can create that artificial lighting to, for the plants to grow. Apart from that, we need something called the soil media. The soil media is, apart from the normal soil which we think of landscaping, there's something called soilite and perlite, which are much lighter in weight. So those help in sustaining the plants much better in the indoor scenario. Because the moment you put earth and water it starts to, rot. The earth starts to rot, and then we have the root rot happening. So one is the light, the other is the media, and third is the drainage. These are the three major things which we need to look at when you're doing a landscape with natural plants.
Okay. But there are no different kinds of plants that you
Yes,
need
yes.
to use inside
Yeah,
and outside?
yeah, depending on the light, we need to choose a different set of species completely. So, like for example, there are some shrubs which need less light. Some trees, we can put even trees inside, depending on the quantum of light coming in. And then if you're doing like nowadays we have these green walls happening, there we can do artificial lighting and sustain those plants. So that will compensate for natural light by putting in artificial lighting. And these lights have a special kind of light which throw the right amount of UV and things like that for the plants to sustain. They don't grow, but they sustain there.
Okay, right. Thank you, Praveen. My next question is, what are the precautions one needs to take during construction stage if we are having large vistas of landscapes on terraces? Because probably it's much easier when you do, there is a lot of hard work involved even when you do it on the ground. Yeah. But when you have these huge vistas of landscape on terraces, which we see in a lot of these public buildings, office buildings, more so abroad than I would say. So what
especially
precautions?
Especially in Dubai, you see these 2 trees on top of the building, somewhere at some 24th level.
Probably because it doesn't grow in there.
Yeah. So here the whole idea is.
So what kind of precautions?
Yeah. So here the whole idea is, okay, we need to plan this, plan the design in such a way that, okay, you need trees now as a part of the design. Then what happens is the quantum of soil has to go up. So depending on the kind of plant, like for example, shrubs, we need around 1.5 feet of soil. If it's a tree, we need 5 feet of soil. So we need to cater to all those things while planning your landscape. Apart from that, so one is the soil depths, depending on the kind of trees or the plants you use. And number two is the weight of those plants on the slab, which need to be detailed on day one. Like we need to give these details to the structural engineer before we plan the building, because all the load of those plants goes into the column, into the footing. So they need to be worked from ground up. So this was one is the weight, second is the drainage system, and the waterproofing. These are the two major things. The idea is, see normally what happens when you have a pot, if you notice each pot has got a little hole in it. It lets the excess of water go out. That's very necessary. If you block that hole, the root starts to rot, so the plant dies. Similarly, in these landscapes also, we need to make sure that the water drains out. So even if you're putting a tree at the 24th level, you have to plan the drainage, which, the excess water, the rainwater has to go out somewhere and drain away so that the roots don't start to rot.
Okay. So
structure and these two things are the primary important things.
Okay. Which again brings me to the next question. Like you said, you need to decide about the landscaping and the weight of the pots and the trees and the soil and all that goes into creating that landscape on the terrace. So in your opinion and your experience, at what stage of a project do you think it is important to coordinate then with the landscape designer? Like, does he or she have to be there right from the start of the project in that case? Or even if it is a landscape design for outdoor at land level, like at what stage is it a good idea to involve the landscape designer?
If you ask me, the right time is when you buy the land. That's when we should come in. That's how it works. Because the reason is, for example, there's an example, okay. So what happens here is, we were looking at a project in Coorg where they had some 3 or 4 sites which they wanted to choose. One of them, so they took us, and then we chose from the 5. Let's do this. So we did a little analysis and decided the soil levels, the slopes of the land, what are the features in the land, what can we exploit for our landscape vistas. So we start from there. So ideally, we should come in when you have picked up the land or buying the land, so we can tell you, okay, this is a good one, that is not a good one. Because again, we understand the drainage system. If it's excess of rain, where does the rainwater go? If it gets stuck in your site, we are in deep trouble. So at the master plan level itself, we come in, and then we even help the architects to locate the building in the site. Like, this is a good place for the main block. This is where the pool should be there, and then what are the levels? So we come in from day one. That's the right time. And then once you have planned that, then you again plan, again you decide from inside okay, say I'm designing a restaurant or a cafeteria on top of a hill or whatever. So what are the views? What do you want them to see from inside? Then you start creating those spaces, even if it's a room, like a bedroom. What do you see outside? So that whole inside out, outside in kind of concept. So we ideally should come in day one.
Okay. And of course, you said that in the buildings where the landscape is not at the ground level, I mean, obviously, since you need to calculate the weight and explain all of that to the structural engineer, then there it's obvious that you need to be there right from the start of the project. Okay.
It's like asking somebody. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, just one more point here. It's like asking somebody that you have a house and you want to put a pool on top. It's something like that. You can't do it until you have started from ground up, So that's how it is.
Sound right. Okay. I have another question, which I thought most of the students who are watching you and your presentation today might have. As an aspiring student, apart from having a green thumb, what basic skill sets would one require to study and practice landscape architecture? Like, what inspired you to take up landscape design, for example? Like, how did you decide to be there?
So
what is it that one in you to be, to have that desire and to be able to do these kind of wonderful jobs?
Yes. So, okay, let me correct you there. You don't need a green thumb. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how
I don't. I'm assuming you need one.
No, not at all. So how it works is, I mean, see, so one is, for me, it was, you can design a building, but what happens outside, nobody looks at it, and until it's a last, nth day kind of thing, when you suddenly realize, I haven't done anything outside, let me do something. So my idea was that when we design a building, we should look at the whole thing complete, as like one element. So that's how I said, I can design a building, yes, I can do the interiors, yes, but how do I do the landscape? That so that it blends in together. So the whole thing has to come in together from day one. Otherwise, it will become like a piecemeal. There's one architect who's doing something else, interior guy is doing something else, the landscape guy is doing something else. There's no relation to the whole thing. So that interested me. Why don't I look at doing something where the whole thing, like the Hampi project, we have done the entire thing, for architecture, the interior, and the landscape together. So we were very clear that this is how the vistas are going to be. These are my views from inside. This is how my look and feel of the main pathways and things like that. So this is what interested me. Why don't I do my landscape, to help me work on my designs better? And then in terms of the planting part of it, you don't have to worry, because you can always hire a horticulturist and tell him, okay, look, I want tall plants here, I want bushy plants here, I want something contrasting here. And then he will suggest the names and plants and show you pictures. And then you say, okay, no, I don't like this, and give me something else. No, I don't like this. These shrubs, they don't merge together. So that is completely a design perspective. You're looking at textures, colors, seasoning, flowering seasons and things like that. And then you blend them together. So that's completely I would say, a design viewpoint. And then you have these consultants which help you put them together. So you have a horticulturist who will help you put the plants in. But it's good to know plants. And they teach you in your landscape course, they teach you. One semester is just on plants.
Right.
Where you have to know the botanical names and things like that. And then the growth pattern and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So you just have to have that passion.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Like,
yes.
You don't have to particularly have any sets to be able to.
Yeah. Very true. Right side.
Yeah. I have a few questions here from the audience.
Sure.
Dipti says, good morning. You had mentioned a slit in the retaining wall in the Coorg project. Could you please tell us why a slit and what it does?
In the retaining wall.
A slit in the retaining wall in the Coorg project.
Okay, I don't remember the slit, but okay, yeah. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. So one is, what happens is there's this retaining wall which is holding some 5 foot of earth. So one is the dry weight of the earth, which is one thing. But when it rains in Coorg, it rains like crazy. So the entire soil is wet. So then there is this pressure on the walls. So the idea is to create the pressure of the soil on the retaining wall. We need to diffuse it, distribute it. So that's why we have these little weep holes, which take the pressure out. Otherwise, the whole wall is going to collapse.
Okay.
So what we do is we do the slits, and then we do a little drain also nowadays behind, which collects all the water. And at the lower level, you have a drain which takes it out into a lower level. So it's a combination of 2 things which we need to do.
Sure. Thank you. The other question is from Banu Shri, which says, what's the purpose of giving an interior slope cladding?
Sloped cladding on the interiors.
I don't know if she's talking about that retaining wall which had a cladding or...
in wood, yeah. What I shown the image was in wood, on an incline.
Yeah. So the question is, what is the purpose of giving interior slope cladding?
Okay, I didn't get that right, but okay, let me just put it this way. I mean, you have the ground and then you have the retaining wall. I could have done it like this, but I did it at an angle. Idea was that when you stand here, you get to see this whole space as, so you see this and then you see the landscape beyond, rather than a cut. So it's more of a visual thing, like you get to see more of the landscape rather than blocking it. That was the idea.
Okay. I guess it also allows for somebody to lean back when they sit down on that.
Also. Yeah, but this was done more for the visual thing. I mean, I wouldn't expect anybody to go and sit there. Just when there's a
Okay.
large gathering, they just be there for a little while. But everybody, I'm sure, will be hanging around the pool. So, so it's more like a visual feel.
Okay. Right. We have one more question from Banushri. She says, could you please explain the process of drainage system between terrace 1 and terrace 2?
In which project was that? Sorry, I didn't.
I think there was this project where it was probably
Levels.
the Coorg itself,
Oh.
where there were a few levels and you called
Okay.
them terrace 1, terrace 2, terrace 3. So
Right.
could you explain the process of drainage system between
Yeah.
terrace 1 and terrace 2?
Yeah. So what happens here is we need to, okay, now assuming the terrace 1 is lower, terrace 2 is higher, we need to drain the water from here, from the 2 into the 1. Or from the 2, we take it out separately, and 1, we take it out separately. So that's how it works. And then normally what happens on any slab, no, we should never put the earth directly onto the slab, which is bad, because the moisture starts to seep into the concrete. So we need to create a barrier there, which is like an air barrier, which we call it a drain cell. So here what happens, all the water collects on that, and then there's a little sheet which holds the water and takes it away to another point. So there is no direct pressure of water or soil or the weight onto the slab directly. It is distributed over a larger space. So there's a system for that. There's this whole system of drainage, which we're using some specific material. We call them drainage cells. All these, especially when you do roof gardens on the slab, RCC slabs, we use that. So the moisture never gets into contact with the bare slab directly. There's always a process where the water percolates down and goes away somewhere else with the right slopes.
Okay. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Banushri, but I think there's a lot of technicality involved and a lot of learning to do in terms of drainage of water when you're designing landscape spaces. The next question is from Shrikara Kulkarni. What landscape do you find is just as spectacular at night as it is during the day? So are you asking for an example? I don't know, but he says what, or is he talking about a particular technique in terms of lighting? What landscape do you find as spectacular at night as during the day is the question.
Yeah, see, the idea is whatever you see in the daytime looks nice, but at night the whole thing is dark, so then we're playing with the darkness. So so it looks more mysterious to me. So the kind of how you treat that in terms of a design, in terms of lighting, is what plays with the overall theme and ambience.
Right.
Maybe I don't know if I'm heading the right direction with respect to his question.
Srikara, you could explain your question in detail if you want to hear more about that. In the meantime, I had a doubt about the Coorg project. This is from Maimoon bin Taj. I had a doubt about the Coorg project. How does the open theater work, the projector and speakers, in terms of usage, as the weather in Coorg can be a little volatile?
Yeah. So we planned all that. We know there's a problem. So what we have done is, so we have the yoga terrace, the yoga roof. So we put the projector there. It's an under ceiling mount. And then the screen which we're going to project is a removable screen, because that's a particular fabric which we need to remove it. Otherwise we have this moss and all that. But there is a new technology now where on a bare wall, you can paint. There's a special paint which you do. You need to do it periodically, and that holds your projection very well. So there are two ways of doing it. So here what we've decided is that we'll take a screen and hang it and remove it. So it's a 20-feet screen. It's got a thin aluminum frame, very easy to pick it up and take it away. That way what happens is, we didn't want a white wall in the whole landscape. Like you have this, everything is green all around you, and then you have this blank white wall. We didn't want that. So we said, let's do a stone wall. So it becomes a part of the landscape, and then we get the screen and hang it there.
Okay. So the second option that you're talking about, where you said you could paint the wall.
We have done it in one of the projects. We have done it. Yeah.
So
the wall has been painted.
That has to necessarily be white, is what you're saying. So it won't
No, no,
blend.
there's a special paint meant for projection.
Right. Yeah. But is that?
Yeah, it is basically white,
Okay. Okay.
So
Right.
I mean, the idea behind these paints is that it's supposed to absorb certain kind of light wavelengths to give you the right quality of image.
Okay.
So those paints have that feature
Okay.
built in.
Yoga terrace roof alone is sort of sufficient to protect the projector.
Yes, because it's got these large overhangs on all four sides. So we said we'll put it under the overhang. The idea, I mean, the reason for doing that was we need to do the cabling right day one, in terms of the cables getting in all the way there. And similarly for the speakers also, we can outdoor speakers nowadays can handle any amount of rain and wind and all that. So it's not a problem for the speakers per se.
Okay. Thank you. We have another question regarding vertical green walls, which is being used a lot in interior spaces these days. How effective is it in terms of maintenance and life of these plants?
So this is one big, if you ask me, vertical gardens have become a fad these days. It looks nice, but they are extremely high on maintenance, extremely high. I'll give an example. We do a 20 by 20 feet wall and put all the plants, and we detail in such a way that we have a red mass of plants here, and then we have a little green here, with darker green here, some grassy there. So we compose the whole image. After doing all that, day one, it looks fabulous. Then after 3 months, 2 plants die somewhere there at that height, and maybe the red plant dies. The replacement which we get will be a tiny plant. We plug it in, it looks so out of place. So that is a challenge with the vertical garden, because we are trying to create something artificial with natural elements, or the inherent materials are all natural. So obviously we can't or we have to have the same plant growing elsewhere with similar light conditions so that it also grows to that size. So when this dies, we just go and plug it in.
Okay. So
which is literally impossible. Yeah, I mean, that is the right way to do it, but it doesn't happen in real life. Yeah.
So do these green walls work better when they're on the external surface of a building, or is it a challenge? For example, next to the Hebbal flyover, I've seen that Brigade building that has an entire green wall as the front elevation.
Yeah.
So is that equally difficult to maintain, or does it work better when it's an external surface?
No, they're all the same. I mean, in terms of maintenance, any plant, you need to spend a lot of time on it. Here, what happens is in the Hebbal project, the plants almost they've gone to some 30, 40 feet high from the ground.
Yeah.
So again, here, while designing the structure, we need to plan all the systems of how to get up there to the 40th feet to maintain, or the 30th feet to repair to replace a plant, or if something is going wrong, like there's some fungal problem, or some plants are becoming yellow or whatever, dying. So somebody has to go access it. Because one is, we create this artificial system of watering, where we put the fertilizers into the water, and we call it fertigation. So this fertigation is applied to the roots of each and every plant through a drip system. But what happens is, some plants behave differently, or some plants die, or there could be some insect or some bugs which come and bite the root, or things like that, like a root, it's called a root aphid. So those kind of things could also happen. Then we need to replace it. So there are two things here. One is, it looks nice day one, but day 10, we don't know whether it's going to look the same, because it's also evolving. The plants are evolving, they're growing.
Right.
And then to prune it at that level is next to impossible. So when you have this big branch growing beyond its capacity of soil, then it starts to yellow. Then somebody has to go up to that level and then prune it. So these are good looking, high on maintenance. That's it. And expensive. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another very interesting question. In interior spaces, do indoor plants help in the oxygen levels?
Yes.
Do interior plants enhance the interior environment, or are they mostly for aesthetics?
Okay, so normally we always start with the space being aesthetic. When the moment you think of landscape inside a house, we say, okay, that is completely aesthetic. Now here, so this is where we need to draw a line and say, okay, I need oxygen or we need aesthetics. We can't have both. Small example is you have this plant called mother-in-law's tongue, they call it, Sansevieria, which is these tall spiky plants. It looks like a lizard's tongue.
The aloe vera.
No, not aloe vera. It's an aloe vera lookalike, but it's thinner and taller. I mean, longer.
Okay.
And it's got these little striations of green and dark green and yellow in them.
Yes, yes.
Now, these plants, they don't look good, in a landscape. But they give you oxygen. So the call you need to take is whether I want to use that plant because it's more, it gives me more oxygen versus a good-looking plant because my space looks nice. So somewhere you need to draw a line and say, okay, I will do my aesthetic planting here, maybe a dash of oxygen thing, but they don't look nice all the time.
Don't all plants give out oxygen?
So the theory is that these plants give you more oxygen compared to the normal plants.
Okay.
So that's why they say that let's use it. Like Areca palms is one of them. The other thing is when you do an interior landscape or whatever, you have to remember that the moment the space is air conditioned, the kind of planting, the kind of watering is different. Because in an air conditioned environment, it sucks out all the moisture from the air, which is not good for the plants. That's when you see most of the leaves start turning yellow. The same thing in a tropical space, where all the leaves are lush green. So that's how it is for interiors. High on maintenance again, and we need to periodically shift the plants.
Yeah.
That's the right way to do it. Like every week we need to put them outside in the balcony, bring it back again, so that, or we have two sets of plants, one outside and one inside, so we can switch them. That's the right way to do it.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right. We have another question from Neeraj who says, what kind of soil research and study do we need to do before designing a landscape, especially when the location is like Coorg, where the soil is moist?
Okay, so Coorg soil is not moist. I mean, example Coorg for a minute. So Coorg normally is good soil because it's the Western Ghats. So the quality of soil is normally quite nice there. So we don't need to worry about it. We only need to worry about the drainage of the excess water in the soil so that the roots don't rot. We need to worry about that. So we need to plan it. Like for example, in the coffee estates, what happens is all the coffee plants are planted on a slope. So when excess of rain, the water starts to slope down. So everything is fine. So that's how we need to look at it. The only problem happens is when the soil is black cotton soil. So we have red soil and then you have the black cotton soil. These are the major soil what you see in this part of India. So here, the moment we have black cotton soil, the kind of plants are different versus the normal soil.
All right. Regarding the infinite edge pool, how is the maintenance of water done? What if the water overflows? How is it controlled? This is from Devyani.
Yeah. So how it works is most of the pools have two kinds of systems. One is a deck drain system is what we call it, and the other is called a skimmer system. So here we're talking about a deck drain pool where one of the edge of the deck is lower, so the water flows out. Now what we do is we create an entire trench on the side where there is a infinite edge, where we hold the water, and it's like a holding tank. From there it goes to the filtration system and comes back. So when you actually step across and look to the other side, you will see a whole system by itself.
Right.
But that is the engineering side of it. But
Yeah,
the visual side of it, everything is nice because you see only the infinite edge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that is something that is not exactly visible, so that
Yeah.
the person who is using the pool thinks that the water is just going to flow down there into the landscape. But
You should always go to the edge and look down to see what's there, and you will see something there. It's a proper drain there.
that that's true. That's true. We have another question. How effective is it to use an artificial green lawn on a terrace as against a real green lawn? Again, taking maintenance into consideration. Would you, as a landscape designer, suggest which of the two would you suggest?
That's a good question. So, okay, so when you want to really do a lawn on a terrace, a real lawn, you need to have a foot of soil where there's waterproofing, and then there is drainage system, and then waterproofing, and then the weight of the slab has to be calculated. There's a whole lot of things which go into doing that part, the natural part. Of course, it looks nice, no doubt about it. It's more natural. But then with it comes the maintenance aspect, where you have to have a gardener to come in and walk into through your living room or your bedroom into that space to maintain it, versus an artificial, which is 20 drop in the slab, and then you stick your lawn there and you're done, day one. And there is zero maintenance. The only problem with synthetic lawn is it gets a little slippery when it's wet. So if you tend to walk fast on it, you might slip because it's synthetic. It doesn't hold the grip too well. But nowadays, the same artificial grass you get, they've designed weeds also into it, so it looks more natural. You have the little yellow, different colored leaves coming out of it just to make it look like it's real. So nowadays you get good artificial lawns too. In terms of maintenance, yes, this is way better. If you're not going to use the terrace, then just to view it, then this is the right thing to do, artificial.
Sure. What about? Wait, sorry. Okay, I have a question from Devyani again about the open theater work. Speakers, the sound might disturb the neighborhood. So, is there any way we can avoid it, or is there any alternative? I think you did speak about the party hall in one of your.
Which is completely double glazing with vacuum in it, and there's no sound going out, versus in the open. So here the sound has to leak out. So we do it in places where there are no neighbors around you.
Yeah. So I suppose that open theater and screen was in the
it's
resort.
It's in an estate. It's a 30-acre estate, so you're right in the middle of that. So we don't have neighbors except for animals and birds. So even they can join us in watching the movie.
I have a question from Vidhi, which says, when we design wet landscaping in interior commercial spaces, the maintenance is very important. So what do we have to keep in mind for the maintenance of the landscape?
Yeah,
that was sort of answered in a lot of previous questions, but if there's
I'll just tell you one quick. Yeah, one is when you do a wet landscape, we're talking about a lot of moisture there. So one was the drainage, which I've been harping all this while. Then the second is we need to have a filtration system where the water is filtered, like a typical swimming pool where the water is filtered and then it comes back into your spaces. That's what you need to be doing here also. So you have to install a filtration system where the water gets filtered and comes back. Otherwise, you have this algae and various kinds of things growing in it. Of course, indoors there is less amount of algae growing. Outdoors, yeah, outdoors is much larger, the algae growth.
All right. I think we have one last question. This is again from Shrikara. I think he has reframed his earlier question, and he says the aesthetics that we achieve for the daytime most of the time becomes dull during the night. How do we achieve the same artistic taste during the night, keeping in mind the science regarding the release of carbon dioxide at night?
Yeah, so
I don't know.
So basically, this ancient saying is you should not walk in the park at night. That's because it gives you carbon dioxide, which is not good for you. Early morning, it starts to give you oxygen. So I mean, that is the cycle, is what they say. So that was one. Then, okay, in terms of how to make the landscape look nice at night. So the whole game is to do the lighting in the right way. The plants, how you light them up, and create the right amount of lux levels to, and for you to walk through the landscape versus what you need to see. You highlight them with your spotlights, focus lights, strip lights. So that itself, lighting itself is a science which we need to put into the landscape to make it look nicer at night.
Right. Yeah, I think that brings us to the end of our questions from the audience. Thank you guys for all those questions. If you have more, you could contact our school. You could send them by mail, and we could forward it to Architect Praveen, and we could get back to you. Thank you so much, Praveen, for coming and sharing all your work and knowledge and experience with us. It was a wonderful presentation. I really wish we could see more of these beautiful landscape vistas, and more so, I wish we could go there right now, but that's not happening. So it was good to be able to see them on screen at least. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for all the
Thank you,
questions.
everybody,
And
for having the patience to listen to me.
right, you're welcome.
Thank
We'll keep our web series going. We hope to come up with some more interesting topics very shortly. I think we might sort of come up with a session on retail interiors. Probably that will be our next webinar. But we are just trying to line up a whole new, different topics that would be of interest to various students of design. We'll see you soon, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you.
Both the Praveen. And
Thank you.
thank
See
you all.
you. Good night. All the best, guys. Bye.
you. Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Good luck. Bye-bye.
See you.
खाली रूम देगी रूम नहीं एक रूम है थोड़ा सा तो खाली एक जगह थोड़ा सा और रूम
पहिला 2 रूम जेवणामध्ये होतं ना ते अर्ध 3
त्यामुळे और एक रूम और हाल जेवणा सोडा तुझी हाल होता इकडे करता राहते बाथरूम
बाथरूम मोटर आतली जाते ना पाणी कापड बी पायाची जोडी तिथं शिंक बी आहे असे त्याला आणि गोळे सांगते शिंक करावं
जोडा स्कर्ट वर करी टाकते हक्का होता ना ते बिल्डिंग टाकते
रूम तसंच आहे
जेवढा सगळं मदत वर करी टाकते बाथरूम फोडून टाकून एक करी टाकते तिकडे बाथरूम इकडे करी टाकते आज हो गई पण दुसरं काय